almost Thanksgiving, pretty much Thanksgiving, which means we've got exactly a month to make this Christmas dress, which sounds scary, but that means that today we've got to do all the draping and drafting and all the shenanigans that we need to know how to actually make this dress. So before anybody asks, I'm going to link my skirt pattern in the description below. And I'm sorry you can't have my bodice pattern. I self-drafted that, but you can watch me and see how I did it and try and replicate it. No promises that I'm gonna be good at explaining how I drafted it, but I'll try. Yeah, let's go do this. So I decided to use the ever famous Keystone Guide to Jacket and Dress Cutting skirt pattern. And I printed mine out. And this is just a picture of the 2 pages that have the diagram and then all the drafting instructions. And it is super, super easy to follow. And as someone who has a really, really hard time drafting things like on flat paper and like measuring and connecting points and doing all that, I work much better draping something on a 3D form. I can wrap my brain around it a little bit better. But this was super, super easy. It walked me through every step, and there were only I think 2 or 3 spots where I got stuck, but it was really quick to get unstuck. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend this pattern. It's really good to work with and gave me really good results. So for my measurements, I put on all my undergarments that I was planning to wear under this dress, and I needed my waist, my hip, and my waist to floor measurements. The only paper I had that was large enough for this was wrapping paper, and seeing as this is my Christmas dress, it was kind of appropriate. So I spread everything out over my floor and tried to measure approximately what my skirt panels would be, but I think I screwed that up a little bit. I had to add more paper later. So at this point, I was ready to start my drafting, and I'm really, really bad at math, so this took me I think 2 hours, but if you're better at math than I am, it'll probably take you about half the time. The scariest part of this whole thing was actually cutting out the actual pattern pieces, because once I cut these out, there was no going back. I couldn't reshape the pattern pieces or add anything or change anything, so this was terrifying. I turned my attention away from my skirt and to my bodice. I was just looking at fashion plates and pictures for this, so I just kind of wung it, threw some fabric on my dress form and started playing around with how the pleats fell, and I think I got something. Yeah, but we'll see when I have the actual dress done. I'm kind of scared for this part. Okay, so here we are. These are my pieces off of my dress form, and this is the front and that's the back. So they're pretty similar, just slight variations. I think the front's just a little bit bigger because I want it to be fuller, and the back is not as full, not as many pleats along the bottom. But you can see it's got this really interesting curve here, which I would not have thought for all these pleats, but apparently it is. And now we're going to try and even everything up, make a paper pattern out of it, and try a mock-up. I'm scared, but we're just gonna do it because what else is there to do? So I started tracing my bodice pieces out onto paper, and then I started cutting out of my mock-up fabric. Before you come at me for the type of fabric I used, I didn't have much of any other fabric, like muslin or anything, that would have made sense to do an actual mock-up out of, so I just used this slippery, satiny stuff, which in hindsight probably wasn't the best idea, but you know what, I had a lot of it and could use it up. Once I had my pattern pieces cut out, I used some tailor's chalk to mark where my pleats would go. It's assembly time. Now, I was feeling kind of confused about how my bodice was going to go together, so I threw it on my dress form just to wrap my head around it. Next, I started sewing all my skirt panels together, and this took a long, long time. And finally, here is the completed mock-up. While I do regret my fabric choice, I do not regret my design. This dress has been on my to-sew list for a long, long time, but I've always pushed it off with the excuse that I don't have the skills or the talent to do it. But here it is, and I am beyond excited that this gets to be my Christmas dress this year, and I cannot wait to see how the actual dress turns out. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means an awful lot to me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and definitely stick around for the actual Christmas dress video because I think it's going to be really, really good. Okay. Happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you later. Bye.